finish this plate. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're watching us live right now on Facebook or YouTube, or maybe you're watching us over on Roku TV. Thanks to Northeast Streaming Sports, we appreciate us being a part of your morning on this Monday football morning, on this start of Thanksgiving week morning. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing great, Chris. Appreciate everybody out there for the support. Keep tuning in.
Mo, last night, I was upset. The Dobbs train got a little derailed. We knew what was going to happen. We knew eventually he was going to lose a game. I didn't think he was going to lose to the Broncos, Mo, but is it time for us to start taking Denver seriously after a 1-5 start, after having 70 dropped on them by the Miami Dolphins? This Denver defense has decided to wake up, and they decided to start playing some actual football. And they are, I would say, the main reason that they've won 4 games in a row, and they're now sitting at 5-5. And let's be honest, Mo, that they're a part of the playoff conversation. We can talk about whether or not they're going to get there, and that could be a completely different story. But as of this morning, coming out of Week 11, heading into Week 12, Denver is a part of the conversation. And we did not think that was going to happen a month ago. A month ago, we were thinking first-round pick. We were thinking Russ isn't going to be the starter next year. We were thinking, is Sean Payton just going to retire and say, I'm done with it? I never should have done this. But a month has changed everything.
Let's give the Broncos some credit for being able to regroup, find out what they do well. The defense, which we thought coming into the season was going to be their best unit, give them credit for picking it up. When you get hung 70 points on you and you're the joke of your profession, that's tough. To bounce back, that shows some resiliency. And let's credit Sean Payton. Look, I don't like necessarily the play calling, but I think he's play calling to the overall talent that they have on offense. Because the only guy that's really a playmaker, I think Russ has played well, but I'm talking about the skill positions. It's Sutton. Sutton is a playmaker. Sutton will attack the football at its highest point. Sutton makes all their big catches. Sutton has become Russ's go-to guy. So I give them credit for finding a way to create offense on a team that doesn't have a lot of offensive talent. But you're right, their defense carries them. And I think their playing style, I said this before, I thought their offense plays not to lose, and I didn't think that was sustainable. But if your defense can be dominant and turn other teams over, and your offense can do just enough, and your quarterback at times goes off script and makes plays, like on the deep touchdown pass to Sutton late, that wasn't a Sean Payton call. That was Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson that we're used to seeing. So give them a lot of credit. They could have easily packed it in with all the heat they were taking from their own fans, the media. I think you're right. I think they're legit in the playoff conversation. Whether or not they remain there, they've got some games ahead of them that's going to challenge them.
They broke a streak last night, Mo. It was 5 straight games of Russell Wilson passing for less than 200 yards. They had won 3 of those. Obviously, they won their 4th one last night. He passes for 259. But to your point, and this was mentioned in the post-game show, Rodney Harrison, who was doing the post-game show over for NBC, he didn't hold back when he said that he thinks that this will not be a playoff team because of the way Sean Payton is calling this offense. He said that if Payton wants this team to reach its fullest potential, he needs to take the handcuffs off of Russell Wilson a little bit, and it's not a let Russ cook kind of thing. It's more of a just open up your offense, because he's looking at what their offense has done during this 4-game winning streak, And he acknowledges that it's not enough to battle a team that has a competent offense on the other side. Exactly. And he takes nothing away from the Minnesota Vikings, but they do have a backup quarterback. That's really what Josh Dobbs kind of the role he's playing this season. Now, he might become a starter next year, but I get what he's saying from that point of view. And he's looking at it as, this is a situation where if you want to be considered a playoff team, you got to score more than 18 points a game.
Right.
I get that, Mo, because if you look at the Denver Broncos, and I said this in our network group chat last night, isn't this what the Jets want to be? Isn't this this is literally the Jets formula, is it not? It is a suffocating defense that's forcing multiple turnovers every single game. It's getting after the opposing quarterback, and then your offense is doing just enough. Oh, the defense gave up 20, we're going to score 21. Oh, the defense gave up 17, we're going to score 19. That's literally what the Jets want their offense to be. To a certain extent, that's almost what Pittsburgh has been doing.
Yeah.
But I don't think Pittsburgh has as good of an offense as Denver does. I think of those three teams, Denver has the best team to properly run that formula. What do you say to that?
They've got the best team because they've got the best quarterback. Russell will, you want wherever you want to project Russ around other quarterbacks, he's much better than what they have in New York and what they have in Pittsburgh. The reason why Pittsburgh's offense is so lackadaisical, they call plays a lot like Sean Payton calls plays, but I think they call those plays because of who they have behind center. They literally say, we're going to rely on our defense to keep it close and find a way to win. And I really don't think that's sustainable. I don't. To get outgained every game and you find a way to win, sooner or later that catches up to you, right? You just, look at who they lost to. Now, we both agree Cleveland has a great defense, but rookie quarterback who's prone to make mistakes, but their rookie quarterback looks better than Pittsburgh's quarterback. That's not good. That's not a good sign. I think the Steelers are going to have to really reevaluate in the offseason if they have their guy.
And if you're a Denver Bronco fan this morning, you're feeling a lot better about your guy.
Yeah.
We'll see how the next handful of games play out. We're going to talk tomorrow morning, Mo, about playoff futures and schedules. So we'll be talking a lot more about the Broncos this week. But right now, we're going to welcome JG on the show because my mind is blown, Mo. My mind doesn't get blown very often. But there's something I got to talk to JG about because
I have to ask him a question too. If it's about Major League, JG knows all things baseball. I have to ask him. I'm blown away by the contract that was just signed over the weekend. I'm impressed.
Yes.
I'm blown away, but I'm not a baseball guy. I defer to JG.
Well, you can ask him that question first because I was going to ask him that too. Let's welcome JG to the show. JG, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Well, JG, in case you didn't know, we're both blown away right now for different reasons. So we'll let Mo explain to you why he's blown away, and then I'll ask you my question in a moment.
I'll just get straight to the point. The contract that just got signed with the Phillies for the right-handed pitcher, your thoughts on that?
There was a lot of surprise in some cases because everybody thought that Nola was going to be leaving Philadelphia, and I think Philly fans even kind of expected Nola to be leaving. The Philly did make some concessions. They made concessions because they had a number in mind. It was going to be, I think it was 5 years is what they initially wanted to offer him. He wanted 7 years. He wanted to be around $200 million. I think they met around 170. So Philadelphia was like 5-year, 150. Nola was 7-year, $210 million. They met in the middle with 7-year, $170 million. And that's a good deal. I think that's a good deal for not only Aaron Nola, but it's also a good deal for Philadelphia. 30 years old pitcher. He's 30 years old right now. He'll be 31 next season in June. And there's a lot of conversation around in local medias with teams and even in some of the national medias is 30 years old. Are you going to give a long-term deal to these guys who are 30, 31? Well, that is the range of the prime years of pitchers is 28 to 33, 34 years old. And you're seeing guys, obviously, You're seeing guys that are getting into the late 30s and even the 40s, and we have a couple right now in Scherzer and Verlander that are in the 40-year-old range. But that range of 28, 29 to 32, 33, that's around the prime year. So you're getting at least 3 years of the 7 years in his prime. And if he continues, and Nola's pitched well. I mean, has he been the best pitcher ace that people expected him, at least in LSU, and being an LSU fan, expected him to be? No, he hasn't been that, but he has been an ace. He has been a really good pitcher throughout his career, and it's deserving for him to be able to get this long-term contract. And I think Philadelphia fans are happy. Yeah, 7 years. You can argue both ways. Is that too long, or is that about right? You can, like I said, you can argue both ways. But $170 million, a little bit more than what Philadelphia was offering, but significantly less than what Nola was actually wanting to get to. So there's concessions on both sides in this deal, and it makes sense for both. Where Nola does pitch really well with Philadelphia. They have a pairing between him and Zach Wheeler as the number 1 and number 2 pitchers, and they continue to be able to progress from there. In that saving that extra $40 million from what Nola was wanting to what he got does help with some of the financials. They're going to be trying to handle a lot of the players they have on roster when when the contract talks come up for them. So I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal for both sides, and that they able to make this work. And you're getting a pitcher who's for the next 3 years is still in his prime, at least the next 3 years is still in his prime, and be able to progress from there in this window that Philadelphia is in for their championship pedigree right now.
Now, obviously, there were other teams that were interested in Nola's services, and there was even rumored that Nola was interested in some teams outside of Philadelphia. So with Nola off the board early, obviously the belle of the ball is Ohtani. But if you remove Ohtani from the pitching conversation, because obviously he isn't pitching anytime soon, that leaves essentially 2 big names on the market, which is Snell and Sonny Gray. And I understand if you're a Yankee fan, you're like, Sonny Gray, come on now. We had that guy. It didn't work out very well. But Sonny, again, he pitched well before New York, and he pitched a lot better after New York. And he is going to make himself some money this offseason. It looks like Sonny in Atlanta is gaining a lot of traction. JG, do you see that being his landing spot, or do you think some other teams are going to jump into the mix? Does Minnesota not have the funds to get Gray back? Do you think that Gray is looking for a championship contender at this point in his career? He is mid-30s. He's on the back end of what that potential prime window would be, but he's still pitching very effectively. Where do you think the Sonny Gray sweepstakes are going to end up?
Yeah, I actually do think that he'll be in Atlanta. Braves were very high on both Sonny Gray and Aaron Nola. They were in talks with Nola prior to him starting kind of getting things going, getting the ball rolling in Philadelphia again, and ended up re-signing with Philly. So the Braves were really heavy on looking at both Sonny and Nola. And I kind of had a feeling they were going to try to get both, because they do have this, they're in their championship window right now. Atlanta is, but they do have they do know Max Fried is in his contract year this year, and we've seen in this history of in recent years of the Braves, they have a player who's in their contract year. They're going to max out as much money as possible after their contract year. They let them walk, i.e., Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson. Max Fried is next, and there's a lot of talk that Fried is not going to get a contract that he wants to get. He's not going to be even close. So there's looks at it that Sonny Gray is going to be the pitcher. That's why I kind of had a feeling that we were going to try to get both Sonny Gray and Aaron Nola in Atlanta. Well, that didn't work out. Gray has came out and said he prioritizes winning over money. He would take less money to be on a contending team for a World Series, not a division. So that's where you kind of look at it and say, well, the Twins won the division in 2023. Why would he not consider them? They're not there's no championship. There's no World Series window in Minnesota. There's a World Series window in Atlanta. And I think that it does make a lot of sense that it's going to be a shorter term deal from what I'm expecting, a 3-year deal for Gray, 3 to 4 year deal, probably around 20 to 25 million per year, something in that range. So it's not a break the bank type of deal that you're going to get for Sonny Gray if you're Atlanta. But I expect him to be in Atlanta hopefully by the end of this week, as things kind of progress a little bit more, and understanding that Nola is off the table. So Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager for the Braves, is going to be solely focused on Sonny Gray to get that part done, and then try to work on and get another pitcher. I think another pitcher in Atlanta is going to be very important to try to pair off as well as they continue to let these young kids develop. But Gray he's really rediscovered himself this year with Minnesota. As you said, Yankee fans are not very happy about that. From they were expecting him to pitch how he pitched this year in New York, but he's reestablished himself and he's pitched really well. And I think he's going to get a good contract. That again, he wants to be on a contending team, and I think that's where his focus should be at this stage of his career.
Speaking of the Yankees, I'm going to sound a little hypocritical here, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with sounding a little hypocritical in this conversation because I read a story this weekend about the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I'll admit it has Yankee vibes all over it. And as a Yankee fan, I'm not okay with another team having Yankee vibes that is not the New York Yankees. Apparently, JG, the Dodgers are looking at potentially trading for Mike Trout and signing Shohei Ohtani. And I look at this with the team they already have. And let's be honest, we know that pitching was their issue in the playoffs this last year. So I want to look at this and be like, well, what a dumb move because you need some pitching. And that's just silliness. But if this is not a New York Yankee move, then I don't know what is. Because that is what the Yankees did when they were winning championships. The bigger the hitters, the more we want them, and we'll figure out the pitching situation later on. Because if we score more runs than you, then it doesn't matter who's pitching for us. Is this what are the possibilities of this actually happening? We know that Shohei is a favorite to sign there as a free agent. So I guess the real question is, what are the odds of the Angels being willing to trade Mike Trout, number one? And number two, do the Dodgers have the assets that the Angels would be willing to accept in a Mike Trout trade? Because we've seen in Major League Baseball a lot. It's one thing when a team wants to trade somebody. It's another thing when a team wants to trade for somebody. Then the question becomes, how valuable is the player, and do both teams agree on the value of the player? And sometimes there's a hang up there. So what does this potential Trout trade situation even look like?
Well, in regards of the assets that the Dodgers could offer, that's one team in Major League Baseball that has the prospects that the Angels would be enticed to say yes to. They have one of the best farm systems still right now. Now, you're going to have to trade. If you're the Dodgers, you have some of these young pitchers that are being called up right now, and Bobby Miller being one. You have a couple other guys that are moving themselves into the conversation of being big league pitchers. You would have to absolutely throw in one or two of those guys, and then throw in some of the rest of the prospects to balance out what the Angels are going to want. Now, the conversation is going to be is at this point of Mike Trout's career, is he worth that much? That's where I kind of get a hang up is if this was 5 years ago, 100%, not even a question. The injury toll that he has paid over the last few years, where it's just been injury after injury after injury, I don't know if a team's going to sit there and say, well, hey, the asking price for the Angels for Mike Trout is 5 prospects, 3 of them at least are top prospects, maybe 1 or 2 major league players that you can throw in as well. I don't know if that's worth it for Trout at this point, because am I getting 5-6 years ago Mike Trout, who was an MVP candidate every single year, or am I getting the injury-riddled Mike Trout who plays 100 games at most, misses time, and just is not available? And if you're the Dodgers making that move, availability is the best ability, especially as you dealt with injuries all in 2023. You're going to need someone who you can trust to be available. And Trout right now, I don't know if that's going to be the case, especially with what you're going to try to give up on him. So if I'm the Angels, I would entertain conversations. I don't know if I'm pushing for Mike Trout to be traded, especially as you just signed Ron Washington, who wants to come in and compete. He wants to compete for a title. So I think at this point you're going to build around Trout again, and I think you're going to try to do what you can to at least better the roster, because you have an older manager who doesn't want to rebuild. He wants to be there to contend for division title. Trout has to be that guy. But unless you're getting blown away, and I don't expect the Dodgers to do it, but if you're blown away with an offer, then yeah, you can at this point say, sure, absolutely. And then we'll just rebuild from there and say, Ron, I'm sorry, these next 2 years or 3 years of these 3 years of your contract is going to be a rough one. We're sorry, but we have to do what's best for the organization. Then you go from there. But the Dodgers are that team that could make that deal. If we talked about the Yankees being one, or Philadelphia being one. As far as for prospects wise, the Dodgers are the team that have everything in line that they could make that offer to. I just don't know if that's going to be the case in the Angels' perspective of where they're at now and what they're looking to try to do in this division in the AL West, that giving up Mike Trout after losing Shohei Ohtani might be the best thing for them at this point.
Could it be a situation, JG, where, and I don't even know what it would look like, but if somehow the Angels could walk away from this with a guaranteed, starting pitcher, I'm talking like second or third in the rotation kind of guy. Is that something, as well as a couple of other smaller pieces, but is that something where the Angels management could look at it and be like, listen, we haven't had great pitching in a very long time. We've had hitting, we've had offense. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. Haven't really sniffed the playoffs. We really need to figure out our pitching. So could they take a different approach and decide to try to put together a quality rotation and then, figure out the offense later on? Because, this is an offensive motivated league because of what Major League Baseball is doing. So, yeah, you're losing Trout, an offensive piece. But like you said, he's always hurt. He's never available. He costs a lot of money. If it ends up being a situation where you can get good quality pitching to start stabilizing your rotation, you can find offensive pieces out there elsewhere for cheaper. Could it be a mindset shift for the Angels potentially?
It can be. It can be. Again, if we talk about the Dodgers, the one name that comes to mind as far as who's got major league experience this year, rookie pitcher, was Bobby Miller. If you're looking at saying you build a package around him, if the Dodgers are willing to do it, build a package around Bobby Miller, a young pitcher, controllable pitcher with years, with Major League Baseball experience, with Major League experience, maybe you can entertain that. You can definitely entertain that. And look and say, what else can you package around Bobby Miller to entice you to say, yes, I'm willing to make this trade? I think that could be some possibility because, as you said, the Angels pitching has been dismal at best for years, and it's not getting any better. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon. They made wrong move after wrong move after wrong move continuously for years with their pitching staff. So outside of Shohei, but again, now you don't have Shohei right now. So you have to figure out what you're going to do with this rotation to at least say we have the defending World Series champions in our division. We have a team that has won the World Series, in our division in the Houston Astros. Seattle Mariners are a young up and coming team still competing and still, and pushing those two teams ahead of us. What do we need to do to get ourselves to where we can flip our script and be able to compete for the division? Maybe looking at it and saying we can get some good, top, talented prospects that can compete, that can develop and compete in Major League Baseball in 2024 and in 2025. I think you can look at it in that way because I agree. At some point, the Angels have to make that decision. They have to make the decision: is Trout in our future? And I would be hard pressed to say yes right now. I think it's better if they were to go ahead and they made the wrong. That's why I kind of feel bad for Ron Washington. They made the wrong decision on the manager, an older manager, 70 years old, 71 years old, who's going to be on a 3-year deal. Who you may have to just say, we're going to rebuild. You're going to lose, and you're going to look at it and going to be miserable as can be over these next 3 years of your contract, and he'll retire in that way more likely. So. That's why I feel bad for Walsh, because the right decision for the Angels, and I've kind of said this throughout the year, the right decision is rebuild. Find a way to trade, get rid of Mike Trout. Find a way to get rid of Anthony Rendon. Get rid of the bad contracts.
Nobody wants Rendon.
If you have to eat the contract, and I know I agree with you on that, but find a way to get rid of him. If it's a trade or if it's DFA, just get rid of him, eat the contract, and open up that position for somebody that you can develop in the big leagues, because Rendon, as I said, absolutely one of the worst contracts in Major League Baseball. But you're going to need to do something with him as well to rebuild. And that's something. And so decisions have to be made, and they're stuck in purgatory right now because they don't know, do we want to rebuild or do we want to compete? Do we want to tear it all down or do we want to add to the roster to contend? They're stuck right now. And I think the decisions they've made have continued to stay stuck until they decide what they're going to do. And it may not be made this offseason. That's the scary part about the Angels. They may not have a decision made about what direction they're going to go this offseason. It might be until 2020, the end of 2024, going into 2025, before they finally just say, all right, yeah, this isn't going to work for us.
JT, before we get you out of here, big Monday Night Football game tonight. We got 30 seconds left. Who do you like, the Eagles or the Chiefs?
Super Bowl rematch. Man, how about exciting? And this is in Kansas City, I believe, is it not?
Yep,
so
it is.
For my fantasy football team, because I have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and I'm down 29, I need the Eagles to absolutely do something good. So with that being said, thinking outside the box regarding my fantasy football team, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their offense is starting to really kind of get things going too. I think they're clicking a little bit more. I think they're going to be they're hard pressed, and I understand that time is on the essence of them because we're already in week 11, going to be going in week 12 here soon. They don't have much time to figure things out. They got to be a little bit more consistent. So I'm going to go with a good win by the Philadelphia Eagles on the road against Kansas City.
All right, JG, we appreciate it. We'll see you here tomorrow morning, sir.
Hey, sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Mo, let's take a quick break. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that happened this past week in the NFL. And Mo, I hate to do this. I'm going to be a little hypocritical again, but I'll explain all of that on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. And Mo, we talked a little bit about this last week, and we talked about how the Buffalo Bills, they fired Ken Dorsey. We had our feelings about that in relation to, why he was fired and how much of an issue is really a Josh Allen issue and not an offensive coordinator issue. But those things aside, the one thing that we agreed on was that Buffalo needed to go and make a statement against the New York Jets. If Buffalo came out of this with a 17-16 win and Zach Wilson was moving the ball on them, that it was going to be an issue. That obviously was not the case. So let's discuss the New York Jets side first. Same old if you're the Jets, right? The only difference is, Mo, I think we have finally hit the point where the New York Jets defense is starting to take a step back a little bit because they've been out there on the field so damn much. I mean, we saw this a little bit last week. Towards the end of their last game, the defense started to do some on New York Jet defense type of things. And this week, for the majority of the game, we saw that the New York Jets defense doesn't look like the New York Jets defense. So, Mo, there comes a point where the defense can't do it all. You can't have the defense on the field for 3/4 of the game, and they're just going to stop everyone. The Bills aren't a bad offense. They have scoring power. You can't have them out there. And they did in the beginning, Mo, they did. They held Buffalo to 2 field goals. They had the turnover early, deep in their own territory. They kept them out of the end zone. Buffalo came down the next drive. They kept them out of the end zone. Early in the game, they held Buffalo out of the end zone. But there comes a point where you can't do it every drive. This is an NFL offense. It's a good quarterback.
And even if they don't score, you need your offense to get a couple of first downs so you can get a breather. Just to get a break, to break the rhythm of the game so you're not on the field for as many plays. And it is the same old story. Everybody keeps talking about they have a run game. They don't really have a run game because nobody respects the pass. So everybody's 8-9 man in the box because nobody's afraid of what the QB can do. nobody fears the pass. They have an elite, talented, young wide receiver, and it doesn't really matter because they can't get the football to him. And I think you're right. There are more and more cracks in the defense, and I don't even think that's all physical. I think there's a mental toll that it takes on you when your offense is going 3 and out over and over and over again. If you get a turnover, that's supposed to be a momentum swing, and your offense just goes 3 and out like you didn't get a turnover, like you didn't make something happen. It can break the morale of your defense. It can break the morale of your team. And as good a coach as Saleh is, and I think he's a very good coach, you can only motivate them so far because he's clearly a great motivator. But at some point, the defense is going to go, we believe everything you said, coach, but it'd be nice if they could get some points on the board or put together a drive, because it does wear on you. And I'm not going to kill the quarterback of the Jets. We've had it. You and I have talked about this over and over and over. But it will be the crux of their season. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs because they don't have good quarterback play.
And for the record, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be on Friday against the Miami Dolphins. Zach Wilson was benched late in this game, middle of the third quarter, end of the third quarter. I know, shocking as it was. But Tim Boyle didn't do anything either. Tim Boyle came into the game to replace Zach Wilson. He went 7 for 14 for 33 yards and 1 interception. So very much similar to what Zach Wilson did, 7 for 15, 81 yards, a touchdown. They finally scored a damn touchdown. But he also had a turnover. And really, Mo, I would even say that it was Zach Wilson's turnover that kind of shifted the game, because you had the turnover early. They hold him to a field goal. Buffalo drives later on. They hold him to a field goal. The Jets get a stop and get the ball back to Zach Wilson, and then he has a turnover, the really bad interception in New York Jet territory, and then Buffalo scores a touchdown. I mean, you can only ask the defense so many times, especially deep in your own territory, 2 turnovers into the game, and it's not even halftime, to keep them out of the end zone. Yeah. Eventually, good teams and good quarterbacks are going to find the end zone. But Mo, and then this is where I'm going to be a little hypocritical, because as great as the win was for Buffalo, here's my argument. And if you think I'm totally off base, feel free to tell me. Buffalo wins 32-6, okay? I would argue that Buffalo beating the Jets 32-6 is them getting back to what we know them to be, but what we know them to be is the bigger issue. And let me explain. If you look at the last 2.5 seasons, okay, this year, all of last year, and all of the year before, in those 2.5 seasons, the Bills have played 26 games where the outcome of the game is decided by more than one score. In those 26 games, they're 25-1. They win almost every game that's decided by more than one score. In games that are decided by one score, they're 5-13. Wow. That is the Buffalo Bills. If it's a blowout, the Bills don't get blown out. Let me just say that right now. Past 2.5 years, the Bills are not getting blown out by anyone. They're either the ones blowing you out or they're playing a close game. And this is not a situation, because I know a Buffalo fan's going to say, well, Chris, when you play a good team, you can't win all the games. No. That is not what we're talking about here, because of these 13 losses, about half of them are not against good teams. They are against really bad teams that you should have rolled, and you didn't, because when Buffalo plays tight games, Josh Allen gets tight. And when Josh Allen gets tight, Josh Allen turns the ball over. Or Josh Allen starts missing throws. Or Josh Allen starts forcing the ball and the completions aren't there anymore. And Mo, while it's great to see Buffalo looking more like Buffalo, my argument is that doesn't fix the problem, because this has been the problem for the last 3 years with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, is when you knock them out early, Josh Allen plays great football. And you saw that as this game went on. When it was 6-0, when it was close, what happened? Oh, Josh Allen was sacked and he fumbled the football. Granted, they got the ball back and there was a flag anyway, so it didn't matter. But the point is, He fumbled the football. He has fumble issues. What also happened? Oh, Josh threw a pick in this game. It didn't end up being anything because the Jets offense can't score points. But if this was a closer game, if this was a back and forth game, that could have impacted the game. But then when they started to pull away a little bit in the second half, Josh looked great. He looked comfortable. He was taking the easy throws, right? He looked like the old Josh Allen out there. Because when Josh is up by 2 scores, Josh plays great football. When Josh is up by 3 scores and he tries to force it and it's a pick, it doesn't matter. He's up by 3 scores. When Josh is up big, he's loose. It's all good. When Josh is playing tight games, Mo, 5-13 over the last 2.5 years. So it's great for Buffalo fans that it looks like you might be getting back to where Buffalo was. But I'm going to say this, Mo, if you're getting back to where Buffalo was, you're not going very far in close games because Josh Allen has proven he's not very good at winning those over the last 3 years.
You and I think we talked about this Friday, or maybe Thursday, we talked about it with Mac, and we were talking about picking that game. And I said, if the game is close, Buffalo will lose. Like, they'll feel the pressure. I thought the pressure would get to them. And before you even throw out those numbers, I'd watched enough of their games to know they struggle in close games. And it starts with their quarterback. But I don't think it's just him. It's the coach and some of his decisions that he made. I think it permeates throughout the team that as a group, they struggle in close games. They do. And I'm not shocked by it. Although, like you said, you get up a couple of touchdowns on the Jets and you know you're home free, right? Because the Jets aren't built to come back. So you're not worried about, well, what if Zach Wilson turns around and throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns? You don't worry about that because that's not going to happen. And this game, we both said they should have won. We predicted they should have won. This is a should have won. But the rest of the schedule coming up, it's not going to be nearly as easy. They're going to be going up against competent offenses and better defenses. The next few games coming up, this is their season. I mean, I think this decides whether or not they're going to be in the playoffs or not. The next few games.
Yeah, they're sitting at 6-5 right now. They go Philly, bye week, Kansas City, Dallas. Those are going to be close. I mean, maybe they're not. Maybe they get blown out in one of those games, but I would imagine these are going to be close games. I would imagine that these are going to be situations where, you know, a mistake by Josh Allen could be a big deal. You make a mistake against the New York Jets, like you said, Mo, they're not going to score 10 points. They have proven they're not going to score 10 points. Like, it's okay. That touchdown they scored was their first touchdown in like 14 quarters or some nonsense like that.
Wow.
So it's okay to make mistakes against teams like the New York Jets. You make a mistake against Philly or Kansas City or Dallas, you might not get a chance to make up for the mistake.
Especially against Philly and Kansas City. I think if you make a mistake against those two teams, Patrick Mahomes is going to make you pay. If you turn the ball over against Patrick Mahomes, he and Andy Reid will make you pay for that mistake. And I think that's going to be the difference. These three games coming up is a murderer's row for Buffalo. Should they come out on the other side of that, let's say they go 2-1, that bodes well for them going forward because there are tough games. These are 3 of the best teams in football. If they go 2-1, that's impressive.
And Mo, while we're talking about it, and we're going to get into this more tomorrow, but the next month for Buffalo, like we just said, is Eagles, bye week, Chiefs, Cowboys. The Bills are a game and a half behind the Dolphins right now. This is what the Dolphins have for the next month. New York Jets, Washington Commanders, Tennessee Titans, New York Jets. Anything can happen in the NFL.
It can. Right?
Anything can.
Your team should win those games.
Anything can happen in the NFL.
I know we make our picks week to week, but just and you're right. Anything can happen. So nothing is a lock. But if I was a betting man, I'd have to assume the Dolphins, let's say as long as there are no injuries and they're whole, whether they win pretty or win ugly, they should win those football games.
Yeah. So not only do you need to win those games if you're Buffalo, you need to win those games knowing Miami is probably going to keep pace with you if you do win.
Right.
And if you lose, they're probably going to win. So it's really imperative. I get it. The Dolphins have 3 really hard games at the end of the season, but it might not matter if Buffalo can't hold serve with the hard part of their schedule. And I'm not just talking about the division. I'm talking about the playoffs.
Correct.
Because the AFC is a mess. It's a murky mess right now, Mo, when it comes to the AFC playoff picture. And
almost everybody's in play.
I know. And Buffalo can't afford to lose 2 of their next 3 games. They absolutely cannot.
No, almost everybody in the AFC is in play, right? Unless you're the Titans and a couple of others, but
the Patriots, and that's about it.
And the Pats, and Jory, I know you're a Titans fan. I'm not trying to kill you. You know, you guys got your struggles, but I do still believe in your young quarterback. So I do think you've got your guy for the future. And I know there was in the post game press conference, your coach got a little upset. I like your coach. I'm actually a fan. I don't think his job is in jeopardy. But yeah, the AFC is a mess, Chris, going forward. Everybody is in play. So every game is a must win, especially within divisions. And look, the Broncos just launched themselves into that conversation.
Yes, they did. And one team that launched themselves out of that conversation might be the Los Angeles Chargers. Disappointing performance yet again from the Chargers. They lost to the Green Bay Packers, a game where Green Bay's top running back went out with an injury early on in the game, a game where Jordan Love was up and down. He was up and down the entire game, despite the nice forest green uniforms that the Packers were rocking. They were clean, were those uniforms.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Mo, I want to talk about what took place after the game. Because after the game, during the post-game news conference,
I saw that.
A reporter asked Staley about defensive play calling and whether or not Staley would continue calling the defensive side of the ball for this team moving forward. And Staley, let's be honest, he snapped at the reporter and, in my opinion, was extremely disrespectful to the media person in the sense of almost lecturing the media member to say, it's not appropriate for you to ask that question. I've already said that I'm the defensive coordinator going forward. I'm going to be the defensive play caller going forward. I like what we're calling on defense, and there's no need for anyone to ask that question again because the answer is not going to change. My guy, you're not good at your job. You're just not. You're not a good head coach. Apparently, you're not a good defensive play caller either because your side of the ball has been absolutely terrible since you have gotten to the Chargers. I'm surprised, like many in the league are, that you still have a job. Maybe they're just waiting until the end of the season because they don't want to promote someone internally and then not give them the job, next season because they know that they're hiring outside when they replace you. So why go through the riffraff of promoting someone, having them potentially do well just to not give them the job? I totally understand that because I can see that happening, Mo. If they promote somebody from within, I can see this team starting to win games because I think Staley is the issue. So I get why they may not want to promote someone from within and have that be an issue because they probably know or have an idea of who they might want. And it might be that guy at Michigan. And if that's what they're eyeballing, all I can say is whoo-hoo, because that would be something.
If they're eyeballing that guy, that is, look, whatever you think of him, and he's a show unto himself, he's actually a hell of a football coach. Outside of the show that comes with him, he's a hell of a football coach. And I know you're talking about coming from college to pros, but he's been in the pros before. Trust me. I'm a Niners fan. I've rode the crazy train, and it was an awesome ride. He will be a substantial upgrade should they go that route. What I didn't like about Staley is the way that, like you said, he lectured the reporter, and he made his point multiple times. He said the statement was, and I'm paraphrasing, I make the play calls, so you don't have to ask that question again. I make the play calls. And he said it like 3 more times like that. And I just thought he kind of berating him, and he just asked you a question because you guys keep coming up short, and all everybody talks about is all the talent that they have on defense and why they can't get stops when they need to. And look, Staley I give him credit. He said he's the one calling the defense. could have easily said, like, well, I don't actually call the defense. That guy is. But he manned up. He said, I call the defense. He said, I'm 100% confident in what we're doing, which I don't know how you're 100% confident in what you're doing. Because your team, especially defensively, you find ways to lose games. You can't be confident in that. You can't be. And I know he's frustrated because he's got to know the chances of him returning are slim and none, and Slim's out of town.
And Gene brings up a good point. He has been asked multiple weeks in a row the same question over and over again, but you handle it like Bill Belichick does. You give a cookie cutter response and you move on, because when you're as bad as you've been, lashing out and showing that kind of emotion, it just makes you look like an idiot, which is what most people think of your head coaching abilities the last couple of seasons with the Chargers. And Gene brings up another great point in the chat about the hoodie. Bill Belichick, he also is apparently moving on from New England next year. Just rumors, nothing confirmed.
Sure.
But Mo, can you imagine what Bill Belichick could do with that defense? That's we know he has his offensive issues, but once you give him a quarterback, Tom Brady, he has proven he can do things. And I know that Herbert's not Brady, but he is a much more talented quarterback than anything he currently has had in New England since Brady left. But don't even talk about the offensive side of the ball. Just think of what Bill Belichick could do with that defense.
Look, if you give the hoodie that defense, not to mention you add a couple more playmakers to that defense,
which he would.
Right. That's going to be a top 5 defense, probably a top 3 defense. And if you turn over that side of the ball and the offense does what it can do, the games that they're losing, the record that they have, that flips. They become like a team that's 8-2, right? Or 9-3. That's the difference that would make. So I know, I don't know for certain if Bill Belichick's coming to the Chargers, but I do like the options. You got the hoodie or you got Harbaugh, and they're completely different guys, but I'm there for either show.
And if you're Staley, you're hearing all this.
Yeah, so that makes it worse.
I get why you're a little testy when people start asking about your defense.
And you're walking around, Chris. You're walking around, and you're like, "I'm the head coach, right? I'm okay, right?" And the people
they're saying all the nice things,
right? And the people in the front office are going, "You're our guy. You're our guy.
Support you,
right? You're our guy. And they're like, first chance we get,
right?" Mo, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, don't worry. I know that the rookie looked rough yesterday, but you just signed Joe Flacco to the practice squad, baby. Things are happening in Cleveland.
Championship Joe. Championship Joe.
Mo, I will say this. Cleveland has an elite defense. I think they have a top 3 defense in the NFL, and I think they probably have the defensive player of the year on their team, okay? That being said, they have to figure out something on offense. When you play the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can get away with only scoring 13 points. That's fine. The Steelers are basically the same thing that you are. Good defense. You have a better defense than they do. Not a lot of offense. If you are going to win games against other teams, whether it be in your division or whether it be in the playoffs, and it looks like they're heading to the playoffs potentially. And let me pull up their schedule real quick. I had that in front of me a second ago. So their schedule is not terrible. Their schedule is very complementary to what they need to do. Their next 4 games are the Broncos, the Rams, the Jaguars, and the Bears. The Jaguars are their toughest test in those 4 games. They're going to be favored in those other 3 games. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where they need to solve the offensive puzzle right away. They're going to have time to do it, and I think they're going to win games while they're doing it, because their defense is going to be good enough to beat some of the teams coming up on their schedule, like the Bears, like the Rams. But if this team gets to the playoffs, Mo, which it looks like they might, they're going to need to figure out something on offense, because scoring 14 points isn't going to be enough. And I get it. Defense travels well. They have a good running game. I understand what everyone is going to say about the Cleveland Browns. I get it. But we know what the playoffs look like. And yeah, you might steal a playoff win with really great defense and only 14 points. You're not going to a Super Bowl if you're only scoring 14 points. And there's sometimes, even with Deshaun Watson on this team, where I didn't think they were going to score 14 points. Look at what this offense has gone through the entire season. 3 different quarterbacks, okay? and no real consistency on the offensive side outside of the running game. And I get it. The running game is going to travel in the playoffs. I understand that. But what happens if you play a team that has a good run defense and now you're forced to throw the football? I don't know. And I don't know if Joe Flacco is the answer. I don't know. But the Cleveland's got to figure something out.
You know what? They didn't sign Joe Flacco just for the sake of signing him, right? We can
Correct.
both agree on that.
He's not a practice squad quarterback.
He is not. And look, the rookie got them a win, and he may very well start next game. But I think they brought Joe Flacco there to be the starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. And look, I don't know what he has left, but what we know, the best version of Joe Flacco is the guy can throw the deep ball. If you saw the Ravens play in his heyday, Joe Flacco could look awful for 3 quarters, but he would always make that one monster throw that would turn games around. And I don't know if he can still do that, but I do think that at this stage of his career, he can game manage his way to wins. He can make the requisite pass that a lot of guys can't make on that roster. So can he move the football? Can he move the chains? I think he can dink and dunk. He can throw intermediate routes. I think once he learns the offense, I'm not saying Flacco's going to take them on a deep run, but he is their best option going into the playoffs.
Well, before we get into breaking down some games from this weekend, I know we're up against time. We always do this. We're out of time breaking down the games. We always got to finish it on Tuesday. It's just the way it works around here.
Maybe we should call Tuesday the in case you missed it episode.
Correct. We always break down games on Tuesdays as well. But the New York Jets, reports came out this week that they are going to do everything they can to trade for Davante Adams in the offseason. They want to pair Davante back up with Aaron Rodgers for next season, which I get it. That makes sense. Adams and Wilson on the offensive side of the ball with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, that's scary. My only question to you, Mo, is why would the Raiders do it? Because this is very similar, I feel, to the conversation of, well, we're just going to go ask Green Bay for their left tackle because Aaron needs a left tackle, and we want to give Aaron someone he likes. Why would the Packers do it? They need to protect their quarterback. Why would the Raiders do it? They need weapons on their offensive side. So I get it if he's disgruntled, he doesn't want to be there, and the Raiders see this as a way out. But if that's not the situation, and another question, Mo, if you're Davante, isn't it almost a 1-year thing? Sure, you get 1 year with Aaron, and you're going to be a Super Bowl contender, right? And you might even be a Super Bowl favorite.
Right.
Great. What if Aaron retires after that 1 year? Now what do you got?
And then he retires, and next thing you know, they're like, Davante, here's Zach Wilson. Like,
right. And if they do win the Super Bowl, I get it. Like, you're trading a couple of bad years to get a Super Bowl, which I get. But you're putting a lot on getting there and winning it, because let's say you get there and you lose, or you lose. Like, there's so many things that can go wrong in that scenario where Davante is not a champion, but he is a Jet, and Aaron's not there.
Right.
So,
but you know what though? If they sell out and they go all in and they get that Super Bowl, no matter what, even if he's a 1 year rental, it's worth it. Yes. It's worth it. You're talking about a Jets team that's never won anything since Joe Namath won something, which I think came like right before color TVs or something like that. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So it's absolutely worth it if they can win it all.
And I guess if you're looking at it, as I continue to talk about this in my head, if you're Davante Adams, you know you're not winning it with Las Vegas. So You might as well go to New York and see what can happen there, because at least you're in the conversation in New York. Okay, Mo, I talked myself into it. Thanks for helping me out there, Mo. Mo, let's talk a little bit real quick. We got a few minutes left. Let's talk about some of the other things that happened this past week in the NFL. Let's start with the Detroit Lions, man. Wow. Talk about a team that faced some adversity. I know the Chicago Bears aren't that good, but hey, sometimes you just get into murky games where you have to find a way to win, and all that matters is coming out with a W, and that's called adversity. And Jared Goff did not play well. No. He had 3 picks. I think the offense overall had 4 turnovers. The Bears looked good at stretches during that game, but they pulled out a win. And for me, Mo, I look at that and I say, you know what? That's great for the Lions because that's just another notch on your belt of how you won games. You won a game where you played terrible. Your offense, particularly your quarterback, played his worst game of the year by far, but you still found a way to win. That's going to benefit you later on when you get into those situations in the playoffs or whatever it might be, or maybe next week, you're down a little bit, Goff throws a pick, and what you're going to look at is you say, hey, this happened last week. He threw 3 and we won the game.
Right.
We can do this, guys. Let's go. As opposed, Mo, to a team like that, and I hate picking on the Jets, and no, I don't. I like it. As opposed to the New York Jets, where the other team scores a touchdown, you're like, that's it. Pack it up. We're down 7-0. We're not winning this one, guys. Thanks for coming.
No, look, I thought Jared Goff, who's not known for turning the ball over, they were down, but he never got down on himself. Like in the post-game interview, he said, I played my worst game of the season, but we found a way to win. He said, I think this is a turning point because good teams win games when they play bad. Mm-hmm. And I can respect that because as the game played out, I was like, this is not the Lions that we had been used to because normally Detroit loses that football game. So I do think with Campbell, with Goff, what they're doing, what they've built there, it's real.
And you saw this a few weeks ago with Detroit where they got absolutely hammered by Baltimore.
Yeah.
And there was no fight. They had no fight in that game. The offense couldn't get anything going after they got down big early. And then to see, and I get it, these are not the same quality teams, the Ravens and the Bears, but it doesn't matter because, again, you're in a situation where late in that game, it looked like you were going to lose and you probably should have lost, but you found a way to get it done. And that's what matters when you're building something. And I think the Lions are building something.
Yeah, I do too. They're one of the exciting young teams in the NFL, and good for Detroit Lions fans because they haven't had a lot to cheer about in a long time. So great for them and the fan base.
If you are a Giants fan, congratulations. You may have found yourself a backup quarterback.
The DeVito train.
Right. You may have found yourself a backup quarterback, but stop it. Stop New York. If you are a New York Giants fan this morning and you are thinking, if you have uttered the words that maybe he should start next season, you need to go sit in the corner and think about what you just said. He is not a starting quarterback in this league, Mo.
No, he is a backup. He's a backup who had a very good football game. Give him credit for that. Now, you have to kind of like look across the other side and go, what's going on with the Commanders?
Right.
What's going on with the Commanders? This was a team that coming into the season has so much promise, and they just haven't lived up to it on both sides of the football. And I have to ask the question, I see the potential here and there, but I kind of feel the same way about Howell now. I don't know if Howell is your starting quarterback or if he's just a very good backup who can have moments. What he isn't is consistent. So, I mean, great for DeVito, great for New York, but look, I am not the biggest Danny Dimes fan, but Danny Dimes, when healthy, is still your best option. At least if you're comparing him to DeVito, okay? He's better than DeVito. But I am happy for the young man DeVito and for his family. Like, that is a moment. I don't know what his career is going to look like going forward, but he will always have that game, that moment where he can look back and his family can go, you remember that game where you came back and you won it? I mean, that's kind of an awesome thing because these careers, they don't all last 15, 16 years. NFL, it's 2, 3, sometimes 1 and done. So just a great moment for him and his family.
And New York Giant fan, if you were celebrating that win yesterday, I caution you because it hurt your draft stock. You felt right now you're the 5th pick in the NFL draft. So if you're looking for a quarterback in the draft, you don't want to be rooting for DeVito to pull out wins because another win this season might take you out of the conversation for one of the top quarterbacks coming out of the draft, unless you put together some sort of crazy trade package or something like that. But obviously, it would just be easier just to have the draft pick as opposed to having to go get the draft pick. But Mo, like I said, tomorrow morning, we're going to break down the rest of the games from this past weekend. JG will be back here with us talking more Major League Baseball. We got lots of things happening this week, Mo. Close us out, sir.
Hey, appreciate everybody up in the chat, everybody that's watching us now, and everybody that will watch us later. Check out all the great content we have to offer to you on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Same time, same place tomorrow morning. We'll see you then.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any